Good evening, everyone. We are live this evening a little bit later to help some of our California Pacific time coaster people to be able to come on and join in the conversation. I know many of them at the time that I usually broadcast are usually driving home from work and from everything like that. So delaying it just a little bit might be a good idea for Miss Sally Betters. Um, I want to share a story with you. And before I start off, welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. We're so excited to have Miss Sally Betters here. And the first time I met Sally, I had flown to a different state. I was going to a conference, and she also was going to a similar conference. We hopped in one of those shuttle vans, and I sat right next to her, and I thought, be brave, introduce yourself. So I took a shot, reached out, introduced myself to Sally, and she introduced herself to me. And we shared stories about, as authors, what we were writing about. I shared my information with her, she shared hers with me, and we had a common theme through both of our books. And it's kind of interesting how two strangers can sit down and have so much in common, right? I mean, incredible coincidence. I think not. I think God has a way to connect people in so many things. So that is my first exposure to Miss Sally Betters. And just like her last name, she is better and better and better. She's awesome, amazing woman. So, Sally, I'm broadcasting from Kyle, Texas tonight. And where are you broadcasting from this evening?
I'm in Pine Mountain Club, California.
That sounds beautiful. So, Sally, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to dive into the book that you have this evening.
Well, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm a certified life coach. And I work with people who struggle to help them find their purpose, their passion, and to know where their power comes from.
Wow. How many of you out there need some of that support to know where your power comes from? So it sounds like she knows and believes that you have it within yourself, and she's probably the type to come and help you get it out, shine out there, right? Right, Miss Sally?
Yes, we have an unlimited source of power if we know how to tap into it.
Right, correct. And tapping into that is a beautiful thing. So, as a writer, as an author, it seems like you must have a lot to express and to say. I know in the description, what you shared with me is that some people lose their color in their life, and it kind of becomes that black or white. So, that's very interesting to me that you would start off describing your book that way. So, can you share more about that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. My book, the one I'm talking about tonight, is called Looking Beyond the Sky. And it's a children's picture book and written in a poem story format that has beautiful pictures of God's creation. And when things go wrong, whether we're children or adults, the color fades. And we tend to feel like we're in a black and white world without color or vibrancy. And so we want to get back to a place where we can appreciate this beautiful world that we live in. So I talk to children about finding safe people they can talk to unburden themselves and redirect their path and find the color in life.
Wow. That is a beautiful thing because when we work with our youth, when we work with our children, we're laying a foundation so that generationally more and more things can happen. They are our future, and that investment in helping them to find or recolor their world again, what an opportunity for adults, for friends, for family. Maybe you're that special aunt or a niece or a nephew that can help lead and guide our kids to find their color again. So, can you show the book and help us to see maybe some samples of this?
Yes, this is the book, and I have an accompanying coloring and activity book that goes with it now. And I'm very excited. Children can not only have fun and relax coloring, but they are able to review the book and the words and the pictures in the book and in black and white, so they can now color it themselves. So
Oh,
they're able to review the poem and get to color what they saw in the book. And then the second half of the book are activities that are age appropriate for preschool as well as kindergarten, of helping children read, sound and letter identification, and numbers, beginning math, and so forth. So it's very practical. It's a wonderful gift set. And the most important thing for me is all these efforts are going to a wonderful organization that is fighting human trafficking, specifically child sex trafficking, in 5 countries. And that organization is called Zoe International. And my husband and I have been supporting them for over 10 years. And they recently built a Zoe Home for Youth in Los Angeles County. And that's
wow.
about an hour and a half from us.
Wow. The whole concept here is very big. This is not just a book. This is an entire platform to really help and support. And if you think about a child's life who's been trafficked, the color is definitely drained from their life. And I'm assuming that the darkness is really what they're seeing. And if we can offer them some of those pinpoints of some hope, some light to stretch forward. And what an amazing cause to be connected with this book. Very beneficial, very supportive, something that can really help so many people. You heard what the organization can do for kids, and now there's going to be a home built very close to their area. And this is globally in 5 different countries. So we can see that there is a challenge and there's a problem with this. So what connected you to to a group like this?
I had this, my books really are derived from my own life experience as well as my work experience. And I worked as a special needs tutor for over 20 years. And so I saw that they were a very vulnerable population. And I also worked as a post-abortion counselor at a local pregnancy center. And I saw the magnitude of what child abuse, sexual abuse does to a young person, and how it penetrates all the decisions that they make as adults. And so I saw how pervasive this was, and I felt like this story needed to be told.
Wow, I agree that the story of this needs to be shared and told. So, in your book, you say that you've written it in a poem and a story kind of in that fashion. So, is it about different scenes of someone's childhood? Is it the same person experiencing nature? How does it lead us into some hope and some light and color again?
Well, it starts off talking about the world that we live in, and it's in poem format, for children to enjoy the cadence of our vocabulary, and how wonderful it is when we can rhyme words that describe things, especially for children. And it brings them into a place to appreciate, whether it's the rustling sounds of wind through the trees or the crashing waves on the ocean, of things that they've experienced. But then takes them to a place of what happens when things go wrong. Do they get mad? Do they get sad? Do they have someone safe to speak to, so that they can get back to that place where they can enjoy this beautiful world again? So it's really speaking to a variety of children, and it's done in a multicultural format. So this book can be appreciated throughout various nationalities and throughout the world.
Wow, you really thought a lot of details into this. You mentioned as a special needs tutor for over 20 years, that connection and seeing what the needs are and how it can impact academically, how it can really challenge somebody possibly with reading, possibly with math, that puts you even further behind in the opportunities, right? You've got to really work harder and to try and break through so many different things. And I love the
Mhm.
practicality of your activity book, adding some of those pieces in it where it probably won't feel like work. It won't feel like, great, I get to sit down with Mrs. Betters and I got to do my work now. I think it's going to be something very motivating and exciting because when you feel that safety, I mean, maybe I should ask it like this. How many children have you worked with over the years that at first were very challenging? They wouldn't open up, or behaviorally, they felt maybe like all over the place because they were in pain. When you have a student like that, when you finally can help them start to attend, right? Attend to the task or attend to the things that we're trying to teach them, what happens in your relationship with the child?
Oh, that is such a beautiful thing to experience. And that was my joy for 20 years, to see that transformation of having a child come in to a tutoring session defeated and overwhelmed and being labeled and have a lot of negative self-talk about the academic focus of their life. And through getting to know them and talking to them and finding out what they enjoyed doing, what their strengths were, and building on those strengths, and then talking to them honestly and letting them know that I would give them tools to help them learn basics so they could get through school. But there were things afterwards that they could do that wouldn't be focusing on their academic strengths. And looking at it from a holistic perspective, there is so much more to life than just academics. And that's what I wanted to share with them. And I used to do jewelry. Many years ago, I used to design and create jewelry. And I had a section in my office where I had some of my supplies. And my students were always very intrigued by that. So I made them a deal and said if they tried their best in tutoring, I would allow them 5 to 10 minutes at the end of our session to create something themselves. And the beauty of that experience showed me that there was a whole different side to them that came out when they could create, when they could be in control, and they could choose organic stones or leather or wire to work with, and made them feel much more confident, because they realized there was something they could do that they had never experienced before.
Wow. When that connection happens and they do begin to show you more of who they are, their creation, and how it can impact improving their confidence, and then with a sense of pride, showing someone else possibly, look what I made, look what I created, and taking all that negative self talk and really flipping it into, I can, I am, and I will.
Yes.
It
Yes.
changes lives. Sally, this
Mhm.
really understand the connection with this, and I'm so honored to have you here tonight on the Beacon of Light podcast to share this bit about it. So something kind of tells me that your story just didn't start with the tutoring, even though it's been 20 years, or with this story looking beyond the sky. Is there something you'd like to share with us that maybe gave you your life experiences to know how you now can help and support so many other people?
Yes, I had been it had been tapped on the shoulder basically about 15 years ago to write a book, and I really didn't know how, and I didn't have the confidence to do it, and I had struggled with dyslexia all my life. So writing a book was the furthest thing from my mind. But in 2018 I wrote the book From Crisis to Compassion, and it was nominated for an award. And it was about a young girl who faces childhood trauma. And afterwards, I decided to write a workbook that goes with it, and then create a life course called Purposeful Living to help coach people through experiences like this that have been traumatic for them. I think the biggest thing for me, April, was when I saw the reaction to my book and saw how many people, um, it was almost like they walked through this invisible door that the book created. It opened a door so they could walk through, and they would share with me very intimate and private things about their own life, that it felt like I was on holy ground. And they had the trust that was built from having read my own book, which is autobiographical and about the life of a woman. And the names are different, but they related. And I started to realize that so many people have had trauma in their life, have not started out on really solid ground, and have had to find their own way. So I thought, if I could make things easier for adults, and if I could write some books for children, that would be encouraging to them, to let them know they're not alone in this world. That's what I wanted to do. And recently, I wrote a series called Sarah's Amazing Animal Adventures. It's a total of 9 books. 3 of them are on Amazon right now, and another 3 will be on in a few weeks. And the proceeds of these will go to Zoe International as well. And these are a series of children's books, the children's stories, excuse me, about character that are displayed through love and kindness. So there's all kinds of options people have, from adult books to preschool books, and to the Sarah series, which is geared for 1st through 4th grade, depending on reading level. And each of the books have discussion questions at the end and activities. So it will help the parent to engage the child, to ask them questions about, have you ever felt alone? Have you ever felt like running away from home? And they can find out things that maybe their child wouldn't have told them otherwise.
That is very powerful. And I will say, as a mom, there are times where I wish they had the running scroll across their forehead that I could read their thoughts, because questions, approaches, sometimes it doesn't always work. And so finding a common place and a common ground, especially with teenagers, to help rebuild trust if it's felt like it's been broken, or if they've been in trauma or pain that they've experienced but have never shared, right? A lot of the times with trauma comes secrets. And in that secret, like, don't tell, otherwise the threat comes, right? And in that fear, many times they suppress and hold it all there and feel like they have to carry this burden. They're a child. And obviously their behavior that runs underneath starts to give away something's up, something's going on. And then we're like grabbing smoke at guessing what it could be. We hope it's not this. It's possibly that. They won't say anything about this. Their friends don't mention that. It is a tough go for parents to always try to figure it out. But maybe through books like this, especially if you can continue to build relationships in those young elementary years and so forth, that possibly they'll be able to open up, even though they might have to relate to something tough, get through the healing journey, start on that path of releasing and letting things go, and know that your life isn't over at 15. It's not over at 12. Yes, there's been terrible things and trauma has happened there, but you have a long life ahead of you. We have choices. We can live within that trauma that happened at whatever age it happened, or we can choose to tap into the power, right? If everything has an opposite, that deepest dark is going to have some amazing bright light, but we have to trust and go forward with it. And I find myself right now with my teenagers helping them to trust that all this good is within themselves. They just have to start, right? Baby steps,
Yes.
little bits.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because as a faith-based author and coach, I look to the Lord for my strength. And I talk about prayer in the books on the Sarah series, and knowing that we have a creator God. And when we pray to him and we ask for help, he listens. And he has given each of us gifts. And it's up to us or our parents when we're young to help develop those gifts. And so these books give children ideas of what they can do and things that this young girl does. And it's through her love of her animals that she's able to excel and take greater risks. And that's what I'm hoping the message is for children, that they'll see they can do things that are hard too, and they can try their best when their heart's in it. The thing you mentioned about the questions, I find really important. And the discussion questions at the end of these books really take the onus off of the parent. And it's almost like a third party is coming in and asking these questions to the child. So it's not as if mom and dad are asking you. The mom and dad are reading the book maybe to them. And the child is answering them of what the author asked. And so it begins a conversation that is really important for both of them, the parent and the child. Something else that's really valuable in these books is that there is at least two of them deal with grief. And grief is such a difficult subject for so many adults. And there's over 40 types of grief that we deal with. And children need to know how they need to process their own grief. And we've seen this culturally and in our society with COVID, that so many children were faced with incredible grief from not being able to attend school, see their friends, participate in sports, have their graduation ceremony. There was a lot of things that they lost, and they didn't know how to process their grief. And nor did their parents know how to help them process their grief, because many parents didn't process their own grief of having to now work at home and deal with the frustration of trying to work with children at home. And so there's a lot of lessons in here for adults and children, that grief is something that we do need to process so we can go to the next thing, the next phase in our life, and go there in a healthy mindset, not carrying baggage with us.
Correct. That carrying the things forward as adults is, if as we can continue to let things go, work through our pain, we then are healthier to reach back and to help our kids keep moving forward. And sometimes it seems like maybe the world has an expectation and we're going to try to live up to it, and that pleasing, excuse me, pleasing, performing and perfecting starts to kind of scatter all over. And then when something like COVID has happened and has leveled the playing field, we're kind of all stripped bare. And maybe
Right.
we don't have the right skills, and we don't know what to do. And then our kids pick up on that. And
They
that
do.
can also be a sense of, oh no, I thought my stability and safety was here with mom. Mom's freaking out, or what have you. And so I think as families, as parents, as children, if we can all recognize and understand, yeah, we've been through it. And if we can just focus in on, at least on the COVID part, we've all been through it. So together we have a shared experience that now maybe we can start. And if there were things prior to, or things even following after, it seems like a great time at this reset to really start again, and with the time frame, little by little move. And I love, love, love what you talked about with the books being kind of that third party. I teach this to
Yes.
my parents all the time when we work with special needs kids in along the autism spectrum, right? Always trying to learn those social skills and the cues and the clues that they miss socially. When we pull out a book, boy, we can really examine that character in the book. We can even assign blame to the character in the book. Look what he missed. He forgot to look at the face. Or did you see his shoulders went up when they should have gone down? Whatever the, idiosyncrasy that we're trying to point out, We have this character within the book that can be that third party, very safe, right? And in
Yes.
essence, then we
Yes.
can relate it back to the kids. So that
Right.
technique is beautiful, and especially when we're working with intense things like childhood trauma. Sally, you have such foresight in so many things to really help bring a new generation, this next generation, healing, and possibly that idea of really improving where it is that they started from, and to know that they don't have to stay there. That's not
Right.
life. It is a part of what happened, but it doesn't become them, right?
Absolutely. That's so well said. And I think we all sometimes need to remember that when we're going through tough times, that this is a season of life. It's not all of life. And we will get through this. And that's where community is so valuable, to have friends. And that was something that wasn't a mistake when I spoke with my illustrator about designing the book, that there's a group of kids and they start off together and they end up together. And that's partly where we get our strength from each other. There's encouragement, there's accountability, there's remembrances. Sometimes our friends remember things we've done that we forget, and they show us our strengths. And my book ends with the children happily walking down through the trees together. And so there, we do come full circle at some point, and it isn't right away. And we know that as adults. But I think it's so important to instill that hope in children.
Agreed. Hope with children is like light to a moth. They just cling to it, attracted to it. Hope brings giggles and smiles. Hope brings light and color. Hope has such power that it moves you to action, which brings you to faith. And within that, we can see in the heart of a child, it's very simple. If they understand the trust and can rebuild it again, they're yours. They are going to search, look, perform, help, do whatever they can, because with trust is the foundation of love. From that, all circles back to where we started with the hope. If you have life, you have light. And if
Yes.
you have light, you have hope. And if you have hope, it'll move you towards faith and action. And it just continues forward. Sally, this has been an incredible evening to discuss your book. And if there's anything you would like to share before we close it up tonight about looking beyond the sky, please go ahead and share it. This time is yours.
Thank you so much. I think what I want to share is that words are important and they're powerful, and our stories are powerful. And it's so vital that we reach out to others, especially in this day and age and time when there's a lot of criticism and strife, that we look for opportunities to encourage one another, that we look for those moments that we don't want to miss, where we can connect, with a smile if we can, or an encouraging word, whether it's a young person or an elderly person. We all need to feel loved. And that is my hope in writing these books, that those who read it will feel loved.
Wow. Well, everyone, that is exactly where I think we should end it. We want to feel that love. Sally, thank you so much for following through, not allowing your weakness in worry about dyslexia from stopping you. Wow, look at all the things that you produced from from just putting that fear aside and like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. That right there is incredible. So I would love and encourage everybody to go and get her book, Looking Beyond the Sky, as well as the companion book, because it's going to help such an amazing cause. Children will be uplifted. Your own children will be uplifted as you read through them. Help. Maybe you are that tutor or that aunt that really works with your nieces and nephews. Getting something like this builds a common ground. And again, that character and how the writer presents it is a safe space to really have a good conversation. Because you can always blame that character. I mean, it's on print. It's fine. They can have at it. Well, thank you again,
Okay.
Sally, and thank you all for joining us this evening. And on the Speaking of Light podcast, we will see you all soon. Thanks, everyone.
Mm. Thank you. Bye bye.